Welcome to IPAF's webinar, focusing on environmental sustainability within the powered access industry. I would like to thank our exclusive sponsor for this event, ZTR. Without our sponsor's support, we wouldn't be able to run these webinars. I'm delighted to inform you that we have over 420 people registered for this webinar from an amazing 39 countries around the world. Thank you for your support. We have three presenters today who will each give some insight into what their organisations are doing in the area of sustainability. First, we have Boranger Dudek, Quality, Safety and Environment Manager for Halot Europe. Halot committed back in 2018 that all new models from that day would be hybrid or electric. So it'll be interesting to see how that is going and what new things they are doing in this area. Then we will hear from Andy Wright, CEO of Sunbelt Rentals UK. I know Andy's business is doing a lot of good work from a sustainability perspective, and it will be interesting to hear what Sunbelt are doing, not just from a powered access viewpoint. Finally, we will hear from Barry Lindsay, Director of Engineering at JLG for the EMEA region. I know JLG have been doing some great work in this area, launching new lithium-powered products and even a hoseless scissor lift in the last few months. So it will be fascinating to hear what other developments are going on at JLG. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions of our guests. Please type into the Q&A panel any questions that you have, and time permitting, we will put those questions to our guests at the end. Before we get to our guests, I would just like to give you some context around the sustainability subject and let you know what role IPAF will play in this area on behalf of all of our members. Globally, there is consensus on the need for action at government level in the form of the Paris Agreement. Across the world, there is national and local policy and legislation. For example, in the UK, the government has committed to bring all greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. Within our industry, there are measures being introduced that affect our members, such as low emission zones and zero emission zones in cities across Europe and now the world. If we want powered access equipment to be used in certain cities, we have had to act already, but we need to act further. From a customer expectation perspective, a lot of large contractors now, their own environmental policies are increasing demand for electric and hybrid machines on site to help them adhere to their own and local policies that are in place. All of this change brings both opportunities and risks, but early action can bring a competitive edge for businesses. IPAF is committing to be a net zero carbon organisation by 2030. We have undertaken our own environmental audit, establishing our own carbon footprint to enable accreditation by Carbon Footprint Limited, an established and globally recognised accreditation body. We are aligning IPAF's 3-year business plan to drive down emissions in all that we do. We have surveyed our members to understand where they are and how IPAF can help them in this area. From that survey of our UK members, 60% have plans in place to reduce their carbon impact, but over 60% of those don't have a target date to do this by. IPAF wants to support its members through signposting, guidance, and information about what they can do. From the survey, we can see that cost is the #1 challenge for our members, and we will work with members to further understand this. Many of our members are already acting now with great initiatives and programs in place, and we want to share that best practice with all members to inspire and get everybody involved. We will be creating 2 new awards for next year's IAPAs, one for Best Environmental Initiative by a rental company or training centre, and one for the Best Environmental Initiative by a manufacturer. We will commit to reporting IPAF's carbon footprint annually and submit data for external verification and accreditation. Okay, before I introduce our first speaker, I'm delighted to introduce a short video from our exclusive sponsor for this webinar, ZTR.
Innovation is in our DNA. It's our lifeblood, our innovative DNA, our culture. It helps to deliver features and capabilities that our customers don't even know yet that they need.
the core, we're a technology company. We understand the needs of the market from a technological perspective, and we're able to bring that to life in a way that brings real value to our customers.
As you look a year ahead, 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead, the solutions will continue to evolve and look different as it relates to the customer's digital journey.
We need people to be thinking about how they want to operate differently. So where they couldn't have thought of providing a remote diagnostic service, today they can.
If a customer wants something personalized and customized, they want a little widget in a report that they can drag and drop over, guess what? ZTR can bring that solution to the table.
Our skill is around how to utilize technology, adopt technology, innovate technology to help people just perform better in the business.
Everything is so synergistic in everything that we're trying to do here at ZTR, and we're very proud.
Today they want to sell technology. They're thinking that the difference is the technology. And really the difference is the information and how you operate and how you service your customer. That's where the real difference is.
Thank you, ZTR. Okay, I'm delighted to introduce our first presenter today. Beranger Dudek is the Quality, Safety and Environment Manager at Hallott Europe. Beranger has 15 years experience of QHSE gained within the automation and fire and security industries. He will explore how Hallott's Blue strategy addresses customers' challenges of reducing machine carbon footprints and extending the use of machines in constrained environments. Over to you, Beranger.
Thank you, Peter, for this introduction. It's a real pleasure to share with you today what are the actions taken in Hallott to meet our customers' environmental specs. So, as it was said, I am part of the Hallott Quality, Safety and Environment team in charge mainly of certifications of the group's distribution subsidiaries in Europe. I joined Hallott 2 years ago now, and before coming, you know what it is when you are a new candidate. I made some research on Hallott's business and its products before coming. And that's when I came across this sentence. My prediction is that in the future, MEWPs will be electric. This sentence was pronounced by Alexandre Sobo, CEO of the Hallott Group, during an interview for a French website in 2017. And before Hallott, I had always been on the user side, and I knew that some machines were already electric, especially for indoor use. But it seemed difficult to me that this will be the case for all MEWPs. And then, and I think we all realized it, the environmental context has clearly changed, with new regulations coming regularly, hybrid and electric vehicles starting to become more and more popular, and with also technologies allowing us allowing more and more electrification. And it's in this environmental context that also our customers have started to change their mindset and start to put the environment at the heart of their strategy. As you can see here, more and more our customers are communicating on the environmental aspect of their strategy, on their website, on social media, on other means of communication. They are implementing action in favor of sustainable development, commitment to the protection of the environment. They propose more and more eco-friendly equipment, but also eco-friendly solutions to their own customers. And they are also using their ISO certifications, of course, environment like ISO 14001, but also certification in quality and safety at work as a driver to become competitive and a value-added partner for their customers. As I said at the beginning about the environmental context, which has changed a lot, if we are looking about our activity, this environmental context is mainly driven by these 3 points. First, initiatives at all levels to reduce emissions. And you said about it, Peter, above all the low emission zones that are being set up more and more in cities around the world. The second point is about the reduction of the carbon footprint of each company, which is more and more central to their strategy. And finally, the regulation of engines and the introduction of the Stage 5 standard, which has created a major challenge for manufacturers. This kind of engine regulation are becoming increasingly strict, calling for ever more sophisticated and expensive technologies. So as you see, these constraints generate a new demand from the market, as each company is now obliged to take these elements into account to establish their strategy, and Olot wanted to highlight this in its own. Here, you can find an extract from our business model. At the center, you will find the Olot ambition, which has always been to become the most valuable and safest working at 8 solution maker in creating the serenest customer experience. The objective is to offer our customers solutions that are safer, more respectful of the environment, and more adapted to the needs of our partners. And to transform these objectives into actions, 3 major strategic axes has been defined. Become a blue company, become a provider of global solutions, and become the best-in-class service level agreement provider on the market. This desire to become a blue company is part of the group quality, safety, and environment policy. Olot will progressively stop using diesel-powered machines to focus on electric equipment, reducing by this way the group's carbon footprint, but also reducing or even eliminating CO2 emissions and also noise pollutions during intervention. To achieve these objectives, several resources are made available. Of course, our 1,600 employees around the world are all well aware of this goal and all contribute in their own way. Like our customers, we are also using our certifications to drive this goal, and we want to achieve this the triple certification in quality, safety, and environment for all our sites by 2023. And any new building, whether it's a factory, a subsidiary, or a logistic platform, will now be eco-design, like our new headquarters in France called H-Cube, built with environmental performance in mind. This has just some example, but I will not detail all the points today that will allow us to achieve our objectives. But I wanted to focus for the rest of the presentation on 2 parts of our business model, which represent for us the will to include sustainable development in our daily thinking. The first is innovations. Despite this difficult year that we have all experienced, research and development expenditure has been more than maintained in 2020. The current crisis has forced us to make efforts to reduce fixed costs, for example, by more than 10%, by cutting on travel, by making savings where it was necessary. But research and development expenditure has risen from 2.6% of turnover in 2019 to 3.6% in 2020. And it is this innovation that supports our electrification strategy and our Pulsar range. So what is the Pulsar range? Pulsar is a new electric architecture for our machines. If you are looking at our range in Olot, our range is divided as follows. Around 70% of our range is already electric. These are mainly small machines like vertical masts, scissor lifts, and push-around, mainly for indoor use and slab floors. Around 20% of our range is equipped with diesel engine, mainly for rough terrain and outside activities. And now 10% of our range has shifted on blue strategy with Pulsar generation range. This part of the range represents the electric roof terrain equipment. And now the group is working on future equipment to continue in that way. The part of the range equipped with diesel engines will switch to the Pulsar range machine, as Olot will announce each year a new equipment launch on Pulsar. If we are looking more into details into the Pulsar range, currently Pulsar consists of 3 machines, an articulated one of 20 meters and 2 scissor lifts of 15 and 18 meters. And for us in Olot, these are the first step to become the blue company we want to be. The promise of the Pulsar generation is as follows. Of course, its electrical specificity means that it contributes to a significant reduction in the environmental impact of interventions. It allows noise levels to be almost divided by 2. It allows also emissions to be reduced to 0 or almost 0, depending on the use. And reducing the environmental impact allows our customers to respect their commitments by responding to the various environmental policies, both internal, if it's in their strategy, and external, depending on the regulation in place. And of course, this environmental part has not been implemented by sacrificing other characteristics. This machine can work indoors, outdoors, on all kinds of fields. They can work a full day without recharging. And everything has been sought to make the transition to an electric machine for our customers the simplest and more effective possible. Now, if we go back to our business model, there is a second point that I wanted to come back to, which is the part at the bottom right concerning the human capital present within OLOT. In OLOT, we are fully convinced that every employee has a key role to play in our strategy, and we want to capitalize on it. We are all united around the values you see on this slide: excellence, performance, engagement, responsibility, respect, and trust. And these values will be brought together into a business transformation program that we are currently rolling out across the group. In fact, in most companies, in order to improve working conditions and the company's performance, quality of working life agreements have been signed. We spoke about it earlier, but quality, safety, and environment management systems are becoming more and more important within companies in order to put QEC issues at the heart of their activity. And finally, operational excellence programs are being deployed to optimize the productivity of the entities. Within OLOT, these 3 components will be grouped under a single program that we have called Yellow. This program allows us to engage everyone in responding these 3 topics, and in particular to environmental issues. In fact, to simplify, we have asked our employees to write a set of practices that will define how OLOT will operate in the future. And that's exactly what Yellow stands for. You will find in the logo created for this program what is Yellow for all OLOT employees. The first and most important letter shows the desire to involve everyone in the success and achievement of the group's objectives by stating that you are the heart of the change. You means, of course, all OLOT employees, but also all the partners we can have. It can be customers, it can be subcontractors, visitors, trainees. All these people will be involved in the program. And to continue on this logo, the other 4 letters are there to specify how this framework should be written, keeping excellence in mind in everything we do, giving meaning to our daily work, encouraging people to share and be inspired by others, and finally, doing all this in an innovative way. It is, and we think that in OLOT, it is this innovation that has led to the Pulsar range I showed you earlier. And it is this innovation that will make OLOT the blue company that it wants to become. This program, as I said, is currently being deployed, and the first results are starting to show. First of all, at local level in each of the group sites, and externally, I hope to maybe have the opportunity to present you soon the new innovations that will come out of Yellow, coming out from this program. So that's it for me for today, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Beranger. And I just want to say a massive thank you to OLOT as well for becoming IPAF's first sustaining member back in 2018. Our next speaker is rental industry veteran Andy Wright. Andy has over 30 years of leadership experience in the rental sector in both Europe and the Middle East. Andy has held senior roles in Agreco, Lavenden Group and Speedy before he joined Sunbelt in 2019. In February 2020, Andy became CEO of Sunbelt UK. I know that Andy and his team take sustainability very seriously, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of the things that they are doing in this area. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Peter. It's first time I've been described as a veteran, so thank you for reminding me of that. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Andy Wright. I'm CEO of Sunbelt Rentals in the UK. I'm delighted to be here today and to be able to contribute to this section on sustainability within the powered access sector. There's so many areas that I could talk about here, but I've only got 15 minutes, so we're starting to focus on the role of the rental companies generally, but also Sunbelt Rentals in helping to make this sustainability journey. And some of the issues that we face as an industry in taking this journey. Now, I know that you all know this because that's why we're here today on the webinar, but this subject is a really big deal, and it's right at the top of many, maybe most, if not all, executive team agendas at this particular point in time. And I can't speak for all of you from around the world today, but that is certainly the case within the UK market. Next slide, please. So just for context, I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but just for context, so Sunbelt Rentals is the largest rental business in the UK market. We also operate in the US and Canada, as I'm sure many of you are aware. We've got revenues in the UK of circa £500 million sterling, a fleet holding of all types of equipment of around in excess of £900 million sterling. And we employ around 3,700 people across 19 specialist business units within the UK market. And one of our largest business units operates within the powered access sector, which is why it's important that we play our part in helping the industry to evolve and change and improve in this area. One of our core values, and it was interesting to see on the presentation previously, we have lots of core values around being responsible, around responsibility. And by that, for us, what that means for us is we do the right thing for our people, we do the right thing for our customers, we do the right thing in the communities that we work and operate, and we do the right things for our planet in the most general sense. And this concept and this value is very much at the heart of our sustainable approach to doing business. But you know, in this need for a more sustainable focus and direction is not something that just affects the powered access sector. And whilst for many years the powered access sector and industry has actually led the way in terms of producing a sustainable, reduced or zero carbon product range through electric or hybrid technology, every other aspect of the equipment rental or equipment manufacturing sector is catching up fast. And I'm sure that some of those areas and some of those businesses within those areas would argue that they may be further advanced now in some areas. So I guess there's a challenge for the industry to take on board. Next slide, please. As a rental industry, we face some interesting challenges in playing our part in delivering a reduced, zero or even negative carbon world. And as I've said earlier, at Sunbelt UK, we own and operate circa £900 million worth of rental assets, many of which are powered by traditional carbon producing means, mainly diesel. And navigating the shift from old technology to new world is likely to be both difficult and potentially very expensive. We've made a very good start with it, but it's not without its issues and challenges. And it's difficult for lots of reasons, but one of the main reasons is because we need to ensure that the objectives of each part of the equipment provision ecosystem and the objectives of each part of that system are met. So the three parts are the customer or the end user, the OEM, and then the rental company that kind of sits in the middle of those two areas and brings it all together. And it's a difficult equilibrium and balance to achieve between all these three areas whilst making this technological shift happen. and certainly it's proving to be challenging now, and I think it will prove to be challenging in the future. So to build on that, what are the issues that we face as an industry? Well, first of all, the big one for me personally right now is, which technology should we invest in? Which technology is going to win the race to provide zero carbon equipment? It's a problem for OEMs and it's a problem for rental companies alike. What will happen if we make the wrong bet, if we choose the wrong horse to bet on? So do I invest in electric? Do I invest in solar, hybrid, stage 5, hydrogen, and all of what that means? Or do I invest in all of them? And is that possible? It's a challenge, and we're at a crossroads, I feel, as an industry in terms of deciding, which technology we should invest in. You may have seen recently that we placed a £65 million order with JCB in the UK, which was the largest order ever placed with JCB in the UK. We didn't know that at the time that we placed the order, but that's what we were told afterwards. I'm really, really proud to be able to say that 92% of this order value was for sustainably powered equipment. So that's both stage 5 and electric powered equipment. And I'm sure that you'll all agree that you won't want to place too many bets of that value and get it wrong. So I think the future direction and the technological development that we're going to see is going to be really interesting to see which of these technologies wins the race. Secondly, the point I'd like to make is, can we match the ability of the OEMs? So we as a rental company, can we match the ability of the manufacturers and their supply and their ability to supply with the demands of the end users, so the customers at the end of the day? Will customers want to move faster than we as an industry can produce, or even we as an industry can fund? Because it's really interesting as we transition rental fleets to sustainable technologies. Remember, it's the carbon producing old technologies that will be generating the revenues to pay for this technology shift in many instances. Making sure we balance that transition is really, really important in ensuring that we can do that. Will the technology adapt quickly enough to deliver the whole range in a sustainable way? Which technology will that be again? Will the investments that are needed to create the infrastructure that supports the newer technologies happen quickly enough? So how much more power will be needed to maintain and recharge larger battery-powered equipment fleets so that we can make them available for customer use when they need them? And how will customers recharge them when they operate them at site? Will that change the way that they have to work from historical methods? And as we talk about power, is power available? Is it available where it needs to be? And if it is, how much will it cost to upgrade power systems to be able to deal with this huge shift in technologies? I heard a story recently of a globally recognized distribution company, won't say the name, who were planning to put 150 electric vehicle delivery vehicles into their site, one of their sites in London. And the electrical supply needed to increase to do that from 1.5 megawatts of power to 4.5. So a tripling of power required to do that. And not only that, it was going to cost £30 million to upgrade the electrical supplies to do that. And it was going to take 3 years to complete the work. So this infrastructure piece is really, really important, because remember, it's not just power and access machines that will be using electricity for recharging its equipment in the future. At Sunbelt UK, we're already operating battery-powered excavators, battery-powered dumpers, battery-powered telehandlers, battery-powered tower lights, battery-powered generators, and small tools and equipment, as well as electric vehicles such as cars and delivery vehicles. So the increased power demand is and will be very significant. And it's clear for me in the future, when we talk about siting new facilities that we would operate out of, that the availability of surplus distributed electricity will be as important in that decision-making process as whether it logistically makes sense from a network point of view as we go down this year. So these important considerations for rental companies as we run these fleets. The other consideration for me and for all of us, I guess, is clearly, does it make sense commercially to make this shift? Are customers prepared to pay for new, more expensive technology? In some cases, we know that stage 5 equipment can be more than twice the cost of stage 3 to purchase. You know, as a rental business in the UK market, we're already having to contend with new equipment purchase price inflation at the same time, in some cases, as rental rate deflation. Returns are under pressure. Customers are looking for the youngest equipment on sites. Latest sustainable technology is desired, and the customers want multiple value-added additions to the services that we provide. The ZTR video at the start was an example of that. All of that costs money. You know, as replacing fleets at this moment in time, you know, companies could well be replacing fleets right now that will be subject to price inflation from OEMs of 10 to 20% from when they first originally bought those fleets, which could be 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. And at the same time, the equipment that they're replacing those fleets with may be subject to price deflation of 5 to 10%. Now, you don't need to have a Harvard business degree to work out that this is a scenario that is just not sustainable in the long term for the rental industry. So if we add into the mix then that we now need to transition all our traditional diesel fueled equipment into carbon-free or lower carbon technology, which is more expensive, then it's easy to see why I would say that this is a period of time where it's currently difficult for rental business as the piece in the middle that joins up the manufacturers with the customers. Now, all of that said, and certainly in the UK, the issue of sustainability in its broadest sense, as well as the specific issue around reduced carbon, is becoming increasingly more prominent in the decision-making process for end users. And when I talk to senior management of my largest customers, the number one topic on their agenda is sustainability, and specifically carbon reduction. And this shift in emphasis is being driven by their customers, which more often than not are governments around the world, I'm sure, but certainly in the UK. So for all I've said about how difficult this journey is and will be, that we're all currently on, it's a journey that we have to make. And it's not the journey we have to make just because in the end it makes sense commercially. It's a journey we have to make because it's the right thing to do. It's in everyone's interest that we work together to make this transition as seamlessly as possible, and that we collaborate with each other to address some of the issues I highlighted here, as well as many others that may well exist. Next slide, please. So if we accept that, even allowing for the difficulties that we face, we'll be taking this journey to lower carbon for all the right reasons, and that given the importance of the issue that we're dealing with at this time, we should do this as quickly as possible. I'd like to consider the role of the rental industry within this. So rental, in my view and my opinion, is critical to the achievement of lower carbon in the future because of the role that we play as part of the sharing economy. So what do I mean by the sharing economy? Well, the sharing economy can be defined as the preference to pay for assets or services by consumption or on demand, rather than owning assets permanently or signing long-term contracts. We see it in all walks of life, from Uber to Netflix to Sunbelt Rentals. You know, that's it's part of a shift demographically, a demographic shift in the world today, I think. And so clearly, rental fits neatly into that classification. So if we think about it in that context, what are the benefits of increasing rental penetration? Next slide, please. So the European Rental Association has done some very detailed work around this point, which I'll try to utilise to bring the benefits of rental to life and to quantify the impact of the rental sector as part of the sharing economy in reducing carbon. So I'm going to use an example which came from the European Rental Association Life Cycle Assessment Report, where they took a 2.5 ton mini excavator, diesel powered, and they use this as an example. It is transferable to the powered access sector. I know it's not a powered access example, but it does make a strong point, and it's transferable across into the powered access sector. We know as Sunbelt Rentals through analysis that this type of asset is typically rented to 20 unique customers every year. And each excavator, it produces 3.25, 3,250 kilograms of CO2 from its embodied emissions. So if, as the ERA life cycle assessment model suggests, which they do suggest, that half of those 20 unique customers that we see every year would have bought the excavator if the option to rent did not exist, then this would save 32,500 kilograms of CO2 equivalent. Simple maths of 10 customers after 20 times 3,250 kilograms of CO2. But that's just one piece of equipment. So if I scale that up and look at our entire mini excavator fleet across Sunbelt Rentals, both in the UK, US and Canada, we have around 11,000 mini excavators in our business. So if we use the ERA example, this means that those 11,000 excavators are potentially saving over 357,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, based upon the carbon emitted only during the production phase and the end-of-life treatment. I'm not talking about the piece in the middle where the equipment's on rent. So this is just during the production phase and the end-of-life treatment. Now that's a big number, but I didn't really understand what that meant. So I want to try and put it into context and so people can understand just what that big number means. It's the equivalent of saving the annual emissions of 77,000 passenger vehicles, which is saved as a consequence of a rental option being available and end markets not needing to own assets, which is huge. So the rental business is a fundamental to this journey that we're on to reduce carbon, and our impact is significant, even without the technological shifts that Beringer and I'm sure Barry will talk about later as OEMs, in terms of developing new technology and new products. So the next slide, please. So what do we mean by sustainability? Well, for me, it's simple. It's a simple definition. It goes something like this. Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And the first point I'd like to make here is it's more than just environmental issues that we should be, and we at Sunbelt Rentals are focusing on. It's more than just carbon reduction, as important as that particular issue is. Here you'll see our sustainability wheel, which is at the very core of our 2030 ESG strategy. Through this wheel, we're focused on all the components of sustainable operation, including the environment and carbon reduction, but also other areas that help us to meet the true definition of sustainability. These being the impact of social value impact, work that we're doing in local communities, legacies that we're leaving behind in terms of future generations, as well as the governance that underpins our actions in this area. So we at Sunbelt, we aspire to be able to deliver a world-class rental experience to our customers. This is our mission. I don't think you can consider yourself to be world-class today unless you have a deep-rooted commitment towards sustainability. And that should be one of the very cornerstones of your business model and your strategy going forward. So here at Sunbelt, we've launched our ESG plan. We are proactively working towards improving all aspects of our performance through implementing it. And we've made a good start along that journey. Next slide, please. So in summary, I believe we stand at a crossroads, certainly from a sustainable technology perspective. I'm not sure. I think the route is not entirely clear. Certainly where I sit, it's not entirely clear. Maybe it'll be clear for others, but it's not clear because of the limitations of the competing technologies from a usability perspective across the full range of equipment, not just the certain niche areas of the equipment, and also as well as from the perspective of the supporting infrastructure that's required to put this new equipment to work successfully. But it is improving. There's been great strides that have been made by the manufacturers out there. There's more and more investment going into designing and delivering sustainable carbon reduction across the equipment rental space, and OEMs are supporting this imperative and are building momentum. And it was great to hear that even in a very difficult year for all the industry, Beringer talked about maintaining R&D, within a lot, which was great, really great to hear. Sustainability is also about focusing on social impact, local community engagement and legacies. And we as a rental industry already play a significant role in reducing the amount of carbon emitted in getting the work done. But ultimately, and this is my final point, making this shift happen will be about balancing the needs of all stakeholders, which will be challenging and will require collaboration between all parties. And it's initiatives like today from Peter and IPAF that will be critical in making this happen. And I'd like to personally thank them and say well done to them for putting this session together, and also to thank them for allowing me to share some of my thoughts. And I must stress these are my thoughts on this very important issue.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm not going to apologise for calling you a veteran, because I get called a veteran and you've been doing it certainly longer than I have. But thanks for some really thought-provoking thoughts there, really interesting. Our final speaker today is Barry Lindsay. Barry joined JLG Industries in 2012 as Director of Engineering in Europe and has managed the European engineering team working across the range of JLG products. He has over 25 years of experience working across a range of specialist vehicle industries, holding a number of senior engineering leadership positions. More recently, his focus has been on understanding the electrification ecosystem, working with the global JLG team to define the future technology strategies. Over to you, Barry.
Great, thank you, Peter. Just give me a moment to share my screen. So, hello everybody, my name is Barry Lindsay and I am the Director of Engineering for JLG in the EMEA region. Today I want to talk about sustainability and what it will mean for the powered access equipment journey of electrification. And the problem with being third is I may repeat some of the things that have already been said, but hopefully I'll give slightly different perspective on some of the issues or topics already discussed. So what is sustainability? At JLG, we are focused on developing innovative products that will help in the fight against climate change. And sustainability at JLG is also recognized as corporate social responsibility, again, which is something that has already been mentioned today. We are focused on sustainable efforts on empowering our people as well, where we provide training and allocate resources to activities designed to support and help build local communities. So in line with the topic of this webinar, I'm going to focus on environmental sustainability and specifically what are the drivers for change in general and how does that affect the powered access industry. So unfortunately, the image of cities polluted by fossil fuels is all too common. It is widely recognized that this is unsustainable. The effects of this are felt worldwide. And I'm not a climate scientist, but the evidence is there for all to see. And it is as individuals, businesses and governments that these effects can be reversed. As was mentioned, the world is switching to renewable energies. Our products must become more sustainable. Improving job site air quality and reducing CO2 emissions is our contribution to solving the global problem. And the powered access machines cannot emit emissions and must be built with sustainable resources. So everybody effectively has a part to play. Some of the drivers for change that emerge from many areas of society are, pressures for industry to change can come from individuals and groups of individuals by boycotting and demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations. However, a key driver for change is also legislation. And regional and country legislation and guidance is starting to apply pressure on large industries, such as construction, to play their part in greenhouse gas and particulate emission reduction. It is surprising just how much is going on. According to Carbon Brief, there are now more than 1,200 climate laws globally, and there are many national and global initiatives underway. I think most people will have heard, and most notable is the Paris Climate Agreement, which entered into force in November 2016. It's an international treaty signed by 196 signatories where they agreed to work to keep global warming below 2 degrees and preferably below 1.5 degrees. And European Union members support this by commitments to the European Green Deal, which targets the EU to be carbon neutral by 2050. Many cities across the globe are increasingly creating low emission zones and are promoting the use of zero emissions equipment in zero emissions work sites. So in summary, the key factors for environmental change as we see it are growing dissatisfaction among the urban population of fossil fuel pollution and climate change driven by greenhouse gases. So how do we see customers' behavior varying around the world in relation to acceptance of green products? At present, the adoption of electrification technologies does vary across the globe. And those regions that we see taking the lead are at the foreground of pursuing national agendas on greenhouse gas reductions. So whilst legislation set the national agendas, implementation is being driven by increased recognition of corporate social responsibility from leading investors and construction companies and rental companies. At the rental company level, almost all recognize the growing need, but have varying views on timing and demand. What we see when we look around the globe is that Europe is leading adoption of green technology, in particular in Europe in the Nordics and Benelux regions. that Asia has a strong focus on electric product development alongside its internal combustion engine development as the market in Asia grows. And what will also impact that maybe is the cost for stage 5 in Asia. Engines may drive demand towards electric solutions. In North America, focus remains strongly on internal combustion engine solutions at the moment, but North America is very aware of the electrification trend. And that in Latin America, there seems to be a very open to the electric solution in our experience today. So what does electrification mean for the powered access industry? You've already heard some views, but let me carry on. If we look at this simplified version of the ecosystem, there are a number of different stakeholders who need to adopt the technology within their businesses and processes. You know, for the engineer in the OEM designing the product, the introduction of electrification provides some simple benefits. The design is not constrained by the engine system architecture, which has become increasingly complex. There are no more complicated exhaust after treatment or engine cooling or fuel system. Machines can be designed knowing that they do not have to consider future emissions updates. And whilst not a direct result of electrification, increasing connectivity of the machines can provide useful insight for the engineers on machine usage, especially considering energy consumption, which can now accurately be measured from battery data. Now for the rental partner, the elimination of the engine components and replacement with zero maintenance lithium-ion batteries will reduce the overall total cost of ownership for the rental partner. Additional diagnostic and useful information from the battery can help with reducing the overall maintenance of the machine. And more importantly, the electrified zero emissions machine will meet the needs of the customer in the future. The fast turnaround and charging of machines, as well as low noise and clean indoor operation, should increase overall machine utilization. And as a contractor renting equipment, the experience of operating equipment will not significantly change, and that is the aim of OEMs in the industry. The difference will be noticed with the added requirement for regular battery charging, and the answer to this at the moment is fast charging of lithium-ion batteries. And the building owner, the main benefit for the construction client will be compliance with legislative and recognition for doing the right thing. Further development is still needed, but the electrification challenge could provide further opportunities for efficiency improvements. And finally, for the operator, the benefits are simple. The machine will feel and operate just like the internal combustion engine version they are familiar with, and they should notice lower noise. So as was already said by Andy, you know, the ecosystem success needs positive adoption by all the key stakeholders. So the question is, how can OEMs help? And our solution is to provide zero emission solutions. So let me just take a quick look at some of the technologies being developed as part of the electrification journey. So we start with batteries. Batteries have always competed with the internal combustion engine as the power source of choice, and the selection of battery power has largely depended upon special environmental factors, such as indoor working and the availability of robust charging infrastructure. In general, each technology has had its place in the product development. There is an increasing expectation that zero emission solutions can replace internal combustion technology in areas where it has traditionally been dominant. And this has created a new challenge for the battery industry to develop and produce new technologies that can match the energy performance of internal combustion engines. And improving battery performance has been an ongoing technical challenge for many decades. The main challenge has been cost and energy density, being able to store sufficient energy at an economic price. However, advances in lithium-ion batteries in particular are beginning to make this possible, even if there is still a need for trade-offs in how equipment is used in order to get a total solution that can get the job done. The rapid growth in electric cars has driven the development of battery chemistry and cell design. What we now see is the technology being adapted for the off-highway industry. And there are a number of reasons why you cannot just use an automotive battery pack in a powered access machine. However, the basic battery cells that store and deliver the energy are being configured into batteries that are suitable for other uses. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain what the key components of a lithium-ion battery actually are. So to start with, I'd like to explain that a lithium-ion battery is an electronic module consisting of a number of parts. Firstly, the battery cell itself, and there are at least 3 different types. You will hear about prismatic, cylindrical, or pouch type of cells. And these different formats were designed at different times to increase energy density of the complete package over the last 4 or 5 years. This is not a factor that is so important for powered access equipment, and the individual cells are joined together in various configurations to create different battery module voltages and capacities. For example, this same type of battery cells are used to power trains, buses, cars, and just more or less of them depending upon individual application needs. So all the individual cells in a battery pack need to be controlled by a monitoring system. The system controls discharge and charging the batteries, as well as monitoring the cell health. And the BMS provides data on all this, including any problem codes to the machine control system. In addition to batteries, I want to quickly mention some other components that form systems, that form the complete system. So motor technology has kept pace with the batteries, and the latest motors use permanent magnet technology to provide greater efficiency and compact size. Controllers and software are an increasingly important part of the system, providing monitoring of key system components, optimizing energy use, and providing diagnostic information, allowing for early intervention to correct any machine faults. At the moment, lifting power is provided by hydraulic cylinders. Ideally, we would like to replace all hydraulic components with electric actuators, creating a leak-free product, but also the opportunity for energy recovery during the machine operating cycle. And as energy on the machine becomes a premium factor, we need to look at utilizing more lightweight structures on components to reduce the energy required to put people at height. So in the electric product ecosystem, a combined approach of good battery energy density and fast charging is needed. And as you may expect, where the internal combustion engine has been the norm, there's not been any need to develop an electric charging infrastructure, again, has been mentioned previously. Particularly where many early phases of building, when the construction before utilities have been laid. So in addition to battery technology, there is increasing interest in battery charging technology. Electric machines are not new to our industry, and electric construction machines today rely on machine chargers plugged into the general site supply of 110 volts or 220 volts AC. Most of these on-machine chargers are single phase, and these are really inadequate for fast charging, especially when battery packs increase in size. So the answer, or part of the solution, could be 3-phase 415 volt supply, which significantly reduces charging time, but requires an additional onboard 3-phase charger. Automotive charging systems, the type that you will see where you plug a car in, not domestic, but on the street, can also offer direct DC charging from the charging point. And this type of charging is faster and will require further investment in standardized charging infrastructure on site. So really, in summary, the industry will need to collaborate on a new construction site charging infrastructure to fully exploit the advantages of modern battery technology. But I've been asked a few times just how do we make that power source decision when we look across a range of products. So, you know, when we look at traditional machines, slab machines utilize flooded lead acid and AGM technology today. Diesel engines remain the dominant source in rough terrain, mid-sized and ultra booms. And in recent years, we've seen the introduction of more hybrid machines. We see that in the medium term, as the availability increases and the cost of lithium-ion batteries reduces, we expect to see more product launches and updates using this technology, although the larger booms may still remain out of the reach of the battery technology in the medium term. The longer term picture is likely to see increasing use of lithium ion replacing flooded lead acid and AGM batteries across the board. And there are also ongoing developments in fuel cell technology that may provide further options for machine power. So finish this last slide. The journey to electrification is complex, and the success will depend upon engagement and adoption throughout the ecosystem. Key issues revolve around developing new partnerships to create opportunity and value. Changes in working practices and charging infrastructure are essential to utilizing the potential of technology, and all involved need to align with the purpose and value of the electrification to the wider society. So thank you for the opportunity to present today, and I'll hand it back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Barry, for that fantastic presentation. Okay, we have time for a few questions. Firstly, if you don't mind, I would like to ask a question of our panelists. To the OEMs, first of all, I think that, you know, from my experience in my previous employer, the cost of, Barry's talked about lithium technology there, the cost of lithium technology and the equivalent machines, circa, in my experience on track mounted machines, about 25% more expensive than a diesel equivalent. Do you see that coming down as these things become more popular? Can I go to Baron J first, please?
Yeah, so I can start with that answer for you, Peter. We see that the cost of batteries has largely been driven by the automotive industry, and as I said in my presentation, we use the same base technology in the batteries for our equipment. The actual cell pack design over the last probably 5 years is reduced by about 80% in terms of cost already. And there's an aggressive target for the automotive industry to achieve even lower costs. We don't expect that we'll see the same cost as the automotive industry through different uses or different volumes and so on. But we do see in the next few years a point where the cost of lithium batteries will start to become on par with stage 5 engines. And then there is the total cost of ownership argument as well. And as Andy was saying earlier, it is something we need to collaborate with the industry on to look at the wider picture, not just the acquisition cost. But to answer your question, yes, the price is still dropping, but it's dropped a lot in the last 5 years, okay, which is making it viable today.
Thank you. Bronje, have you anything to add to that?
No, nothing.
Okay, thank you. And one for Andy. Obviously, these machines today, you know, I know you've bought a lot of different types of equipment, not just powered access. Are customers prepared to pay the extra rental rates where you've invested more than you would in an older diesel or less eco-friendly product? You're on mute, Andy.
Sorry about that. So, I mean, the customers are serious about this now. You know, I mean, there's a lot of talk previously, and now it's becoming real. So yes, in short, there are customers out there who will pay the extra. I think it's the onus is on us as a industry to have some price discipline, and that's one of the issues, because, you know, all that extra value added needs to be, you know, and all the extra, you know, the extra cost involved in producing the equipment and then therefore purchasing the equipment needs to be paid for somehow. So yes, I would agree with that there are customers that will pay the price, and many of those people that you would see in the sort of tier 1 sort of area where there's a real focus on sustainability and an understanding that, you know, technology is changing and that will have an impact on the price to pay. But then ultimately, you know, there are benefits coming back the other way, aren't there? You know, if people electrify and don't go to diesel, then there's some cost savings to be made as well. So it's a total cost sort of calculation that needs to be made.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. On a similar subject, I suppose I'd like to ask you. Well, we've got a question. Does a sustainability strategy always mean added cost? If I could stay with you, Andy, on that one.
Well, not necessarily, because, you know, as I've said earlier, you know, there are different ways to achieve the same thing, aren't there? And sometimes you may have cost in one area, but take cost away in another area. So it doesn't always need to include cost. I think lots of things that we're looking at and doing right now, you know, around electrification of, you know, our depot network, for example, to be able to take more battery-powered fleets or battery-powered vehicles, then there is a cost. There is initial cost and capital investment increase required for that. But then beyond that, the running cost may well be less. So it's again, it's all in the round, isn't it?
Yeah. And Baron J, same question.
Yeah, so I would say to Andy's point there that we recognise that there is a need for OEMs to work together to keep the cost down. You know, we need to look at the value-added solutions for our customers.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry. And Baron J?
Yeah, in a lot we are at the same page as than everyone. Of course, there is some extra cost with the batteries, with everything, but what we try to do also is to reduce the cost of other all the other parts you have all around the machine. We try to find some way to be innovative and to find some way to reduce the total cost of the machines.
Yeah, thank you very much. We've got another question. How are you measuring machine emissions? Well, Andy mentioned it in his presentation. The European Rental Association have introduced a CO2 calculator. We already signpost that on our website. It's not specific to powered access, but it does work for powered access. So you have to plug in certain attributes of the machines that you're looking at, and it works out the emissions whilst the machine is operating. It gives you a whole life cost. You need certain information, the cost of or the amount of carbon is produced while it's being manufactured, which all of the OEMs should have. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that. I'll take that as a no. One for the OEMs. How do you see the move towards electrification in Asia versus Europe and the US? Beranger.
We will have the exact same machines in Asia, and we try to find a way to put our machines, electric machines, in China. But it's currently under development for a lot, and we try to find a way to send this machine to Asia. It's more difficult in Asia for the moment, but I think it will improve in the coming years.
Thank you. Barry?
Yeah, so we work quite closely with our engineering and operations team in China, and there's we see a strong interest in electrification, and really the same issues that we're challenged with in Europe we see in Asia. So as I said in my presentation, there is an additional charge when you have a diesel engine and the stage 5 charges. It actually starts to make electrification more on par with the cost of products in there. And of course, a lot of the technology in terms of batteries is currently produced in Asia as well. So a very strong emphasis on the electrification in Asia at the moment, we see.
Okay, thank you. One for you, Andy, from me, I'm just thinking about it, 'cause I agree with your comments on the infrastructure. The infrastructure is certainly not there today if we were to move quite quickly to all electric plant on site, not just powered access. Are you working on things as a general rental company to support the contractors in providing some of that infrastructure?
Yeah, we're looking at many different ways of doing that, and each piece of equipment has a different profile because of how the contractor uses it at site. Some of it is more easily charged because it always goes back to a point where there's an electrical supply on an evening, whereas others it doesn't. So it has to be remotely charged in some way, and again that has to be done in a sustainable way. So, but yeah, there's lots and lots of various different initiatives and trials going on, in the marketplace that's trying to deal with exactly that particular issue.
Thank you very much. And one for the manufacturers again, is hydrogen fuel cells the way forward in sustainability instead of fossil fuels? Barry?
Yeah, I think it would be wrong for us to ignore hydrogen as an alternative source of energy, whether it's in a fuel cell or another application on a machine. Certainly for the larger machines, I think, as Andy said there, you know, those machines that don't move around so much, it's going to be difficult to move them, to charge them perhaps every night, and a kind of hybrid charging solution that might involve some kind of hydrogen is foreseeable. Maybe not on the machine straight away, but certainly in clean charging equipment on site.
Okay, Beranger, same question.
Yeah, we are currently investigating also in a lot about hydrogen. We have a dedicated team on this topic, and it's pretty difficult for the moment because there is not a lot of hydrogen specific location to have hydrogen for everyone. It's not very clear for the moment where you can have this, and we have a team who investigate on it, and we hope to have a solution soon about this.
And finally, one last one from me for for all of you, but really with the manufacturers in mind, if I'm honest. Interested to hear about your blue strategy and the volume of machines, Beranger, that you've currently got that are electric. What, you know, how long do you see it? You know, what's the timeline to get to all electric for a lot?
The strategy, so as I said, it's maybe one machine by year, or it will be announced by a lot, and we are going to have maybe the first big boom on this on electric with batteries maybe in 2025. So maybe in 2025, and after maybe 2-3 years, so I will say 2028 maybe.
Okay, Barry, same question. Do you see a time where all JLG products will be electric?
Certainly, we want to make sure that we provide products that will allow customers to have that choice across the whole product range. And we've already launched the Da Vinci Scissor, which is the world's first all electric, as you mentioned earlier, without any hydraulics. You know, there's still some way to go before you'll see that sort of technology across every machine. But in terms of zero emissions, I think, yeah, over the next 5 years, we'll be expanding the range of zero emissions machines to meet the needs of zero emission sites. I certainly think it's that sort of time frame. It's not sort of 10 years. How these machines, what percentage of market they'll replace is still an open question. But the demand and the interest is very strong.
Thank you. And Andy, from a rental perspective, do you see an all-electric fleet anytime soon? If so, when?
I think it'll be a blend, Peter, of you know, there are other types of solutions that are being developed at the moment around the type of fuel using combustion engines, you know, sort of biofuels, you know, HVO, that type of thing, which is not a zero carbon, but it's a reduced carbon sort of option. You know, it's hard to see how everything will be electric, and in fact, will it be electric? Because you know, there's other people perhaps looking at whether you can just take the hydrogen straight into a combustion engine. So, you know, it doesn't need, then it doesn't, it's not. So this is the technology dilemma I think that we've got. Is, you know, and you know, electric seems to be winning the race at the moment, doesn't it? That's what I would say from where I can say. But you know, it's the limitations of the bigger equipment being driven by electricity that's going to be the challenge, I think. And it's interesting to hear we might see a large deal from a lot of 2025. That will be interesting and good to see.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, that's all we have time for now. It just leaves me to say a huge thank you to our guest presenters today, Beranger Dudek, Andy Wright and Barry Lindsay. Thank you so much for your insightful presentations and your thoughts. One last thanks to our exclusive sponsor for this event, ZTR. And finally, thanks to all our members for taking the time to watch this webinar. Thanks for your engagement, and I hope that you found it useful. Our next webinar will be launching our latest annual Global Safety Report. It will be on Tuesday, the 22nd of June. Registrations are open now if you want to get registered. Thank you very much.